Well, good morning. I hope this finds y'all well. I've got a story I'd like to share with y'all this morning if you care to listen in. This particular story is about a young man from the Panhandle of Florida that was going to go to work in Louisiana on one of them oil rigs. So he packed up his old truck, got on the road one morning bright and early, drove on over to Morgan City, Louisiana. Didn't have a whole lot of money, but he had enough to get there. But he was counting on getting that job because he didn't have enough to get back. Y'all ever been in a situation like that? Well, anyway, he gets over there, goes to the 7-Eleven, picks him up a newspaper, and starts looking to see who might be hired. Well, sure enough, he found a company that was taking applications, and back then, it wasn't none of this online stuff. You just kind of showed up. So he slept in his truck that night right in front of the place that was going to be doing the hiring. He woke up bright and early and he went in there and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." And the man says, "Well, what kind of job you looking for?" I said, "I want to go out on them oil rigs and I want to do some welding." And he came around the corner and he shook my hand and he introduced himself as Buck. And that's all he said, "My name's Buck." He said, "Come on back here with me." So he took me back in the shop and he had me do a little bit of welding, up, down, and sideways. Well, he took me back up front and had me fill out some paperwork. Then he told me I was a Class 1 welder. And he told me that I'd be leaving in the morning to go out on the rig. And if there was a bunkhouse along the side, if I cared to sleep in it. Well, I went over there around the side and I met up with another man. He told me where I could park my truck. So I took my truck into this fenced-in area. Had some mean-looking dogs in there. They didn't mess with me none. And I went back up to the bunkhouse. It was kind of a cold day. And the only thing giving off heat around there was this trash can full of wood. I was 19 years old. And there were some pretty seedy-looking characters in there, so I was pretty uncomfortable. But I got through it, and then the following morning, took us by bus over to this place by the bay, and the helicopter landed on the pad, and we all loaded up in. And it was windy, and it was nasty, and a man sitting next to me told me if I got sick on him, he'd punch me square in the face. Well, I felt like getting sick, but I didn't do it. I didn't much feel like getting punched in the face, So we made it out to the rig, and we land on the rig, and everybody's getting off of it. And I no sooner got off of it, I hear a voice saying, "Hey, you." I looked over my shoulder, and the man said, "Yeah, you." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "I'm a welder." Man, oh man, when I said that, I thought them boys was going to swallow their tobacco. "You're a welder? How long you been welding?" I said, "Well, I went to Okaloosa Walton Junior College welding school, and then I come out here and I done passed this test, and they told me I was a welder." Well, he looked over to his right, and there was a big old scaffold there, and he said, "Son, I need you to go up on that scaffold, and I need you to make me a butt weld." And I mean to tell you, that scaffold was probably 40 foot high. And I ain't never been up a scaffold in my life. But I throwed back my shoulders and I pumped up my chest. And I said, "I can do that." Well, I grabbed a hold of the welding equipment and I headed up that scaffold. I got up there about 15 to 18 feet, I suppose, and them boys got to shaking the scaffold. Can you believe it? First thing that went was my helmet, then everything in my hand. Man, I was holding on to that thing like a cat scared in a tree. Well, it wasn't long. He told me to come on back down, and I came on back down, and the foreman looked right at me. And he said, "Son, don't ever go up a scaffold that you didn't put together." And he said, "Don't let your pride get you killed out here." Man, I was shaking like a leaf. Well, a man come along beside me, put his arm around me. He had picked up all my gear. And he said, "Come on, follow me." Well, God isn't real fond of prideful people. And I learned a hard lesson that day. It says in the scriptures, before destruction, the heart of man is prideful, but humility goes before honor. God is opposed to the proud and gives grace to the humble. So you got to humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in the proper time, casting all your anxieties upon him, because he cares for you. You know, especially in these times, a lot of humility would go a long way, wouldn't it? Well, I just want y'all to know that I'm thinking about you and I'm praying for y'all, and I know things are getting better. I believe it in my heart. And God bless you. And I'll talk to y'all again next week.